Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1889 Cleveland Spiders MLB baseball season. Now, in 1889, the Cleveland team, the year before, they were the Cleveland Blues, and they're playing the American Association. However, they had been invited to rejoin the National League because the Detroit team had gone out of business. Detroit was not yet the Motor City, and because the automobile age had not arrived yet. So Frank Robeson accepted that offer. So Cleveland was back in the National League. George W. Howe was a team stockholder, and he observed the players in practice one day, and he said this, quote, "They look awful, all skinny and spindly. They're nothing more than spiders." So this is one story of how the Cleveland Blues became the Cleveland Spiders. Another story is that the Cleveland sports writers were responsible. This was not an official name change, but a name change nevertheless took effect. And this is the team they came to be known as. The other story is that the Cleveland sports writer had started calling them that in the reporting in the newspaper. And so anyway, they supposedly the players were thin and wiry. They had a thin and wiry nature, many of the players, and this is why they looked like spiders. They had the uniforms were white with dark blue. They were a fighting team. They were considered the toughest, roughest team in the National League. Again, they were playing baseball home games at National League Park, Payne Avenue and 35th Street in Cleveland. There's a story. One game, August 14th, 1889. Jimmy McCallar, the Cleveland Spider outfielder, was called safe at second on a double, close play. And the New York Giants catcher, Buck Ewing, protested to the umpire, and he said, quote, "You blind so-and-so, the man was out. Anybody could see that." And the umpire, Jack Powers, reversed his decision and called McCallar out. And then the Spiders players descended on the umpire, Powers, Patsy Tebow, Eddie McKeon, Cub Stricker, all men with fists and fiery tongues, to quote Franklin Whitey Lewis of the Cleveland sports writer. They pushed and jostled Powers. The umpire ran to the clubhouse and waited for the police to come. Later, Powers returned to the field, flanked by a dozen policemen. And when the game finished, the police stayed to protect Powers, the umpire. Now, in 1889, the owners in the National League had a new salary cap. Every player in the league was ranked according to ability from A to E, A being the top ranking. And the salary cap was the maximum salary for the best players would be $2,500, the A players. And then the B players, $2,000, C players, $1,500, D players, $1,000, and the E players, $500 maximum. So also the players had to pay a rental fee for their uniforms. There was major tension between the owners and players. So after 5 years, Cleveland was back in the National League. Cleveland was one of the fastest growing cities in the United States at the time. The population rank changed from 21st in the country in 1860 to 10th by 1890. The new uniforms for the Spiders, black top, dark gray pants with black stripes at the sides. The belt and stockings and cap were all black. Each player had two uniforms for the home and road were the same. Now, early on in the season, the players complained about the uniform, and it was changed. The home uniform became navy blue pants and shirt. The away was black pants and shirt, with black stockings, a white belt, and white cuffs, and Cleveland white letters on the chest. The caps were white with black vertical stripes. The home opener was on May 3rd. 3,000 fans came to see the Cleveland Spiders on a cold day. They had the usual season opening parade with a brass band. In the game, Jay Fatts had a 3-run home run. The ball never reached the outfield. It ricocheted off the foot of third baseman Deacon White and went under the grandstand. White frantically tried to retrieve the ball as Fatts circled the bases. On June 19th, 1889, the Spiders were 29-16 in second place. And there was pennant fever in Cleveland. The Sporting News reported, quote, about Cleveland, "The city is ablaze with excitement over the team and the question, what is the score, is being asked by everybody from the boy in dresses nearly to the old gent who used to play catch when a catch on the first bound was out. Scoreboards are appearing daily in all parts of the city. Fire engine houses are using their official blackboards for a scoreboard. Despite the strong start, the team slumped, and they did not win the division. In fact, their final record for the season was 61-72, winning percentage of .459, 25.5 games out of first. At any rate, the team was improving, and they were on their way to becoming a strong contender. They were one of the best teams in baseball in the 1890s. So the first place team in the National League in 1889 was the New York Giants, who finished 83-43, a winning percentage of .659. Second place was the Boston Bean Eaters at 83-45. Third place, Chicago White Stockings, 67-65. Fourth place, Philadelphia Quakers, 63-64. Fifth place, Pittsburgh Alleghenies, 61-71. Sixth place, the Cleveland Spiders at 61-72. Seventh place, the Indianapolis Hoosiers, 59-75. And in eighth and last place, the Washington Nationals at 41-83. Now, Tom Loftus returned as the Cleveland manager, managed the team the entire year. The everyday players, Chief Zimmer, was back as our regular catcher. Tremendous player. Zimmer hit .259, 9 doubles, 9 triples, a home run, 21 RBIs, and 14 stolen bases. Another fine year for Chief Zimmer. He really handled the pitchers well. Jay Fatz was at first base. Fatz hit .231, 12 doubles, 5 triples, 2 home runs, 38 RBIs, and 27 stolen bases. So Fatz was back. A lot of the players had returned. Cub Stricker was back at second base. Stricker hit .251, 10 doubles, 4 triples, a home run, 47 RBIs, and 32 stolen bases. Fine year for Cub Stricker. Ed McKean was back at shortstop, and he was a big star on the team. McKean hit .318, really good, 22 doubles, 8 triples, 5 home runs, 75 RBIs, and 35 stolen bases. Cleveland had a new third baseman in 1889, Patsy Tebow. Hit .282, 20 doubles, 6 triples, 8 home runs, 76 RBIs, and 26 stolen bases. Fine year for Patsy Tebow. Tebow was a first baseman, third baseman manager from St. Louis, Missouri. He died in St. Louis in 1918 at age 53. Career average of .279, 27 home runs, 735 RBIs. As a manager, his record was .726 and .583. Tebow played for the Chicago White Stockings, Cleveland Spiders, Cleveland Infants, Cleveland Spiders again, St. Louis Perfectos, and St. Louis Cardinals between 1887 and 1900. He also managed the Cleveland Infants, Cleveland Spiders, and St. Louis Perfectos and the St. Louis Cardinals between 1890 and 1900. His real full name was Oliver Wendell. They called him Patsy. He ended up getting that honorary Irish nickname from some Irish friends. His brother George Tebow, whom they called White Wings, also played Major League Baseball. And Tebow was the player-manager for the 1895 Cleveland Spiders, who were MLB champions. Tebow was considered verbally abusive of umpires and opposing players and was often criticized by journalists for that. After he retired, he ran a saloon in St. Louis. His wife left him in 1918, and he committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. He was very tragic. He was good at the hidden ball trick. He would shove a base runner off third base when the umpire was not looking and then tag him out and then call the umpire. Apparently he got away with that more than once. In the outfield, we had a new outfielder, Jimmy McCallier. McCallier hit .235, 6 doubles, 6 triples, 0 home runs, 35 RBIs, and 37 stolen bases. McCallier was a center fielder, manager, executive from Youngstown, Ohio. He died in Youngstown in 1931 at age 66. Career average of .253, 12 home runs, 469 RBIs. Played for the Cleveland Spiders from 1889 to 1998, so he had a good run, and he was a part of these very strong Cleveland Spider teams. He also played for the Cleveland Blues in 1901 and the St. Louis Browns from 1889 to 1907. He managed the Cleveland Blues, the St. Louis Browns, and the Washington Senators from 1901 to 1911. He was the co-owner of the Boston Red Sox from 1911 to 1913. He had a quarrel with a longtime friend and colleague, Ban Johnson, the president of the American League. As a result, he sold his shares with the Red Sox and broke off his relationship with Major League Baseball. McCallum initiated the tradition of having the United States president throw out the first pitch of the MLB season. His brother Owen was mayor of Los Angeles. McCallum could run. He had speed. He was part owner of the Delthaven Comedy Company, a theatrical road troupe. He had a strong interest in show business. McCallum had strong friendship with Broadway composer and performer George M. Cohan. McCallum was a graceful outfielder. For the 1891 Reds player, Arlie Latham tripled, and McCallum rounded third base. And McCallum chased between... He tripped McCallum rounding third base. And McCallum chased Latham around the field, brandishing his bat. It was written, quote, McCallum was, quote, the first center fielder to take his eyes off a fly ball, run to the spot where it fell to earth and catch it. McCallum played a key role in the development of the American League. He recruited experienced players from the National League. In 1910, McCallum asked U.S. President William Howard Taft to throw out the first pitch of the season for the Washington Senators on April 14th. In the same game, U.S. Vice President James S. Sherman, quote, took a foul ball off the bat of Frank Baker directly in the head and almost put an end to his career. As co-owner of the Red Sox in 1912, that team won the World Series. When McCallum returned to Youngstown, Ohio, they had a parade and fireworks in his honor. The Youngstown Daily Vindicator wrote, quote, as the auto-bearing Mr. McCallum turned into West Federal Street, hundreds of sticks of red fire were burning at the central square. While the quiet atmosphere was occasionally punctured by the explosion of a bomb. In Game 7 of the World Series at Fenway Park, there was a controversy about seats, and Mayor John Honeyfitz Fitzgerald, the grandfather of John F. Kennedy, led a protest around Fenway Park, which led to a riot. Only 17,000 fans came to the game. McCallum was friends with King Alfonso the 13th of Spain, whom he met on a European tour with the Red Sox in 1912 and 1913. In 1936, he received one vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Napoleon Lajoie called him, quote, one of the best ever. In McCallum's obituary, it was written, quote, one of the fastest outfielders the major leagues ever produced. Bill James wrote, quote, called him, quote, the best defensive outfielder of the 1890s. Baseball historian David Fleitz wrote, quote, this brilliant defensive outfielder was a smart, clever, and ambitious man who helped create 2 of the original 8 franchises of the American League. The Youngstown Daily Vindicator wrote that McCallum was, quote, forceful and resourceful, but always retiring when there was talk of his share in the development of baseball. Jimmy McCallum, what a career that he had. Another new player was Paul Radford, an outfielder. Radford hit .238, 21 doubles, 5 triples, a home run, 46 RBIs, and 30 stolen bases. Radford, his full name was Paul Revere Radford. He was an outfielder shortstop from Roxbury, Massachusetts. He died in Boston, Massachusetts in 1945 at age 83. Career average of .242, 13 home runs, 462 RBIs, 346 stolen bases. Radford played for the Boston Beaneaters, Providence Grays, Kansas City Cowboys, New York Metropolitans, Brooklyn Bridegrooms, Cleveland Spiders, Cleveland Infants, Boston Reds, and Washington Senators between 1883 and 1894. They called him Shorty. His best year was in 1890 with the Cleveland Infants when he hit .292. Paul Radford. Another new player was outfielder Larry Twitchell, who hit .275, 16 doubles, 11 triples, 4 home runs, 95 RBIs, and 17 stolen bases. Twitchell also did a little pitching, had no decisions, and an ERA of 0.00 in 1 inning pitched. Twitchell was from Cleveland, Ohio. He died in Cleveland in 1930 at age 66. Career average of .263, 19 home runs, 384 RBIs. Twitchell played for the Detroit Wolverines, Cleveland Spiders, Cleveland Infants, Buffalo Bisons, Columbus Solons, and Washington Senators and Louisville Colonels from 1886 to 1894. He won a World Series title with the 1887 Detroit Wolverines. Twitchell had a strong throwing arm. He threw the ball 407 feet, farther than any other 19th century player. He managed the Milwaukee Brewers in 1895 and 1896. Twitchell played baseball at Oberlin College. On August 18, 1889, Twitchell hit for the cycle, 6 hits, 16 total bases, a home run, and 3 triples. Wow. After he retired, he became a commercial salesman. And at the 1921 Old Timers game, Cleveland's 125th anniversary, he appeared with Cy Young, Chief Zimmer, Napoleon Lajoie, and Elmer Fleck. And he's buried at Lakewood Park Cemetery here in Rocky River, Ohio, in the Cleveland area. Larry Twitchell. Bob Gilks was back. Now we're getting to the bench players. Gilks hit .238, 5 doubles, 3 triples, 0 home runs, 18 RBIs, 6 stolen bases in 53 games. A new bench player was Cy Sutcliffe, who hit .248, 3 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, 21 RBIs, 5 stolen bases in 46 games. Sutcliffe was from Wheaton, Illinois. He died in Wheaton in 1893 at age 30. Career average of .288, 381 hits, 174 RBIs. Sutcliffe played for the Chicago White Stockings, St. Louis Maroons, Detroit Wolverines, Cleveland Spiders, Cleveland Infants, Washington Statesmen, and Baltimore Orioles between 1884 and 1892. They called him Cy or Old Cy. He was mostly a catcher, also played first base, outfield, and the shortstop position. He died of Bright's disease or nephritis, a kidney disease. Sutcliffe was 6'2", tall for the era. And the 1885 Sporting Life wrote, quote, "Two Chicago boys tell many amusing stories about their good-natured and popular giant catcher Sutcliffe. His pedal extremities are of liberal dimensions. And in Nashville, Tennessee, a wagon ran onto one of his feet and then stopped. Sutcliffe never knew it until he turned to walk away and found his foot caught fast. In Chattanooga, as he was standing on the curbstone, a granger, slightly under the influence of liquor, drove up and hitched his horse to him, thinking he was a telegraph pole. In 1885, Sutcliffe was released by Chicago after 11 games. The Sporting Life, it was written, quote, "He must be added to the list of exploded phenomena." In 1887, the Milwaukee Journal wrote, quote, "Sutcliffe is a good catcher, but he's without doubt the laziest-looking and slowest-moving player in the Northwestern League." In 1888, in a game against Cincinnati, it was written, quote, "4 Reds were nailed while making suckers of themselves, trying to steal second on Sutcliffe, who threw like a catapult." In his obituary, it was written, quote, "He was quite a character in his way, and were it not for his intemperate habits, would undoubtedly have been the best professional backstop in the country. As it was, his irregular habits impaired his efficiency, and it was only at times he was seen at his best." He was quite a wit and was celebrated for the way in which he could roast an umpire, at the same time keeping his eyes in an entirely different direction from that individual. His wife's name was Ella, and they had a son, Elmer, who lost his father at age 6. Sutcliffe, God bless him. Pop Snyder was back as a bench player. Snyder hit .193, 3 doubles, 12 RBIs, 4 stolen bases in 22 games. Spare catcher. Now the pitching staff, Cinders O'Brien was the ace pitcher. As a hitter, O'Brien hit .250, 35 hits, a double, 18 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 41 games. O'Brien's record as a pitcher was 22-17 with an ERA of 4.15, 41 starts, 39 complete games, and a shutout. The second pitcher in the rotation was Ed Beaton, a new guy. As a hitter, he had .116, 14 hits, a home run, 8 RBIs in 37 games. As a pitcher, Beaton's record was 20-15 with an ERA of 3.57, 36 starts, 35 complete games, and 3 shutouts. Beaton's full name was Ebenezer Ambrose. He was from Baltimore, Maryland, died in Baltimore in 1925 at age 58. Career record of 48-56, an ERA of 3.68, 335 strikeouts. Beaton played for the Detroit Wolverines and Cleveland Spiders. In a 4-year career between 1887 and 1891, it was written that he had the, quote, best slow ball in the game. He played for the 1887 Detroit Wolverines, who won the pennant. There was a dispute in 1887 between the Detroit Wolverines, Cincinnati Red Stockings, and Indianapolis Hoosiers. All claimed the rights to Beaton. Sporting Life wrote, quote, "His slow ball has never been equaled by any pitcher living. It would set such batters as Delahanty, Bickley, and Anson perfectly wild, and the little cuss would use it with the bases chock full and a heavy hitter at bat. I should expect my release if I lobbed a slow one at such times, but Beaton's teaser was the best thing in his repertoire." In 1910, Beaton threw his pitch with, quote, "the nerve of a wrestling promoter. Beaton had the most deliberate slow ball that ever wearied its way toward a plate. Cy Young, Christy Mathewson, Ed Welch, Mordecai Brown, Eddie Joss, or any of the artists would gladly separate from $5,000 for a loaf ball like Beaton's. The batter never knew when Beaton wound up whether the ball would come like aviator Johnny Moisant or an ADT messenger boy." There's a 1905 story that Harry Stovey swung at a slow ball, missed, and then swung again and hit what appeared to be a game-winning hit. However, the umpire ruled him struck out and said, quote, "There is no rule allowing you 2 strikes at the same ball. You were out a full second before you made that hit." Beaton is one of 2 MLB players who are named Ebenezer. Ed Beaton, interesting fellow. Jersey Backley was back. Another pitcher, hit 135, 15 hits, a double, a triple, a home run, 8 RBIs, 1 stolen base in 36 games. Backley's record as a pitcher was 12-22 with a 2.96 ERA, 34 starts, and 33 complete games. Henry Gruber was a new pitcher. As a hitter, Gruber hit 101, 7 hits, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs in 25 games. Gruber's record as a pitcher was 7-16 with a 3.64 ERA, 23 starts, 23 complete games, and a save. Gruber was from Hamden, Connecticut. He died in 1932 at age 68. Career record of 61-78, or ERA of 3.67, 346 strikeouts. Gruber played for the Detroit Wolverines, Cleveland Spiders, Cleveland Infants, and the Cleveland Spiders again between 1887 and 1891. He was the first pro coach at Yale University baseball team. In 1896, the Sporting Life said this about Gruber, quote, "Henry Gruber is looking like a lord nowadays when promenading on Chapel Street in New Haven, Connecticut. There is a certain dark-eyed young lady who seems much smitten with Henry, and there is no doubt but what her affections are reciprocated." Gruber worked as an umpire in the Eastern League, the Connecticut League, and the American League after retiring as a player. And finally, Charlie Sprague was another pitcher, new guy, hit 143, 1 hit, an RBI, a stolen base in 2 games. His one-loss record was 0-2 with an ERA of 8.47, 2 starts, 2 complete games. Sprague was from Cleveland, Ohio. He died in Des Moines, Iowa, 1912 at age 48. Career record of 10-7 with an ERA of 4.51, 76 strikeouts. He pitched for the Chicago White Stockings, Cleveland Spiders, and Toledo Mommies between 1887 and 1890. Now, for this book, I'm currently reading, which has helped me in the research for this book, for this video, the book called Rowdy Patsy Tebow and the Cleveland Spiders, Fighting to the Bottom of Baseball, 1887 to 1899 by David L. Fleitz, 2017. This is a fine book. I recommend it highly. After the regular season in 1889, the National League champions New York Giants played the American Association champions Brooklyn Bridegrooms in the 1889 World Series. And the New York Giants won the series 6-3, so they were Major League Baseball champions in 1889, the New York Giants. So that's the story of the 1889 Cleveland Spiders, who were in the National League, got their name, and were a team that was developing. 2 years later, 1889, 3 years later, they would be in the championship series, and 6 years later, 6 years later, they would be Major League Baseball champions. So this team had a future. God bless everyone associated with the 1889 Cleveland Spiders, including the players and everyone else, including the fans, especially the Civil War veterans who were getting older. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp Statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Tribe, Browns, and Cavs, and Monsters Rule, Cleveland, City of Champions. It's been 70 years since 1948. This is our year. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.